So my suspicions have been confirmed, and essentially the Garden V2 update is actually now out on the main server. A few days ago I made a video about what they've added into the alpha to do with farming, and it's kind of good, but kind of actually, when you think about it, not. So I'm just going to go to the garden, and essentially there's some new NPCs over here. Now, if you don't know what this update is all about, I'll fill you in. Essentially, pests will spawn on your island. Sorry, on your garden. These pests, if not exterminated, will basically decrease your farming fortune until they're exterminated, and you take them back to the NPCs, and then they'll increase your farming fortune, which basically means that when farming, you'll have to stop, find the pest in any location in your garden, exterminate it, bring it back to the NPC, then convert it so you can then actually get rid of the nerf of farming fortune. It's interesting. In addition to that, the actual good part of the update is the fact that there is a new rare artifact, and obviously there's a ring and a talisman as well, requiring bronze medals, silver medals, then gold medals, and Jacob tickets, and then the previous talisman. All of these will increase your farming fortune within farming contests, which in fairness is really good. We also have this personal best, which you can purchase, and if we actually take a look at what it does, the higher your personal best are from participating in Jacob farming contest, the more farming fortune you'll obtain in that crop. So weirdly, essentially, the better you are at a certain crop, the better you'll become. The rich get richer. But this is now out. This is not the alpha. This is the main server. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. You know, I'm glad I did a lot of my farming, or pretty much all the farming that I need to get on my Iron Man profile, to get a Midas staff, because I've already got it. I'm glad I've already got that out of the way, and I'm not having to farm now, because your rates are going to be drastically decreased realistically. Think about it, if every 5 or 10 minutes you have to stop what you're doing to then locate a pest on your island, to exterminate it, which is, I mean, the whole ordeal is probably going to take about maybe 30 seconds, a minute, and then you've got to go back, and then you've got to find the exact location you were already farming in your farm, find the angle. It is just a massive pain. It's a huge pain. And I can see why they've done it. There's a very good reason why they've done it, but it honestly just doesn't make a difference. There's good aspects and bad aspects to this update, and I'm going to go over them in just a minute. But before we go any further, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code NITROS. It gets yourself 5% off. Also, you should subscribe to the channel. It does help out a lot. And you should join the Discord server. It's linked in the description of this video. We do dungeons and Slayers carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. Anyway, one of the biggest problems that faces farming is undoubtedly macroers. Macroers, who are people who basically set up AFK farms that really need very minimal input from the macros that they create in order for the macros just to farm without them even being at the computer. Of course, this is not allowed, and if you fail macro checks, you'll be banned. However, there's people who have billions of collection in one certain crop and have never been macro checked, so it's quite obvious that there's a failure somewhere. This update essentially makes farming less passive, meaning that if you basically keep farming and don't exterminate the pests, then you're going to be punished by getting less farming fortune. But of course, this doesn't just apply to macros, this applies to everybody on the garden. So realistically, the macros are going to find a way around it. Either that, or they're just going to take the hit in farming fortune, still macro, and the regular players are just going to be penalised and have worse rates. I mean, that's the reality of the situation. It's going to affect regular players. And while farming is a good money-making method for early game players, it's not a great money-making method. If you have a maxed out farming setup, you're not going to make anywhere near close to what you would do when you're mining. It's not like it's game breaking. It's not like it needs to be nerfed. But yeah, that's the main problem. It's going to affect regular players. It's also going to affect the macros that it's probably targeted at, but it's not going to stop them. On the other hand, there is a lot more than what actually meets the eye with this update. For instance, they've added quite a few new items into the game, such as dung. Can be spread across the garden plot with a sprayinator. Interesting. Afflicts beetles and flies, which are the two of the types of pests that you can get. Now, it is interesting because these pests can drop different drops. We also have tasty cheese, which is just something else you can spray. Plant matter, which once again is something else that you can spray that can attract other pests. The honey jar, which once again is something else you can spray. And then the wriggling lava. Consumes this wriggling, disgusting lava, permanently gain +2 bonus pest chance. You can consume up to 5 lava before the sight of them makes you too sick to consume more. Now there's actually reforged stones that you can get as well. For instance, this beady eyes applies beady reforged when combined with vacuums. This is going to give plus 25 damage, plus 50 intelligence, and pest drop plus 3 crops. Now, there's so many things that they've added from the pests and so on. I wish I could see everything, but they don't seem to have released any patch notes at the moment. But in fairness, at this moment in time, of course, with every new update, all of the items that you can get from, for instance, the drops from the pests are sky high. The prices are really high, so there is a big opportunity to make coins right now. Now, as always with new updates. But the reality is, like I said, it's not going to stop people from macroing, and I feel like even though they've dressed it up and they've added new items into the game and they've made it seem interesting, the main reason they've done this is pretty simply just to make it so it's harder for people to macro, or if people do macro, then it affects the rates. Now, I'm not 100% sure because there isn't a changelog, but there was talk of a feature being added whereby you needed to basically move your mouse every 5 minutes as like a built-in macro check. Now, there's no sign of that actually being implemented, but it, you know, who knows? Once again, it seems like a good idea, but people can just macro the way around it. Now, with the whole pest situation, it's going to be a pain. Obviously, when you're farming, and you know, farming's really boring, so why make it painful and boring, meaning that you have to go and vacuum up a pest and then bring it back to an NPC and then go back to where you were already farming and find the exact angle. Now, there was an interesting suggestion made by Skather, who is one of the moderators in my Discord server, and basically he suggested that there was an item whereby you can, I mean, before you move from your farm to exterminate the pest, you have some, you know, you have an item where you can right click it or something and it saves that location, almost like a tactical insertion from Call of Duty. Then you can go ahead and exterminate the pest, you click it, and then you go straight back to where you finished farming in the same, on the same angle, in the same location, so you didn't have to go and find it. That would be a really good idea. But otherwise, it is just massively punishing the regular player who's farming. Of course, that's if you don't take advantage or if you don't benefit from these good drops that you could get that have been added. And I know, personally, I'm going to be really reluctant to farm from this point. That's just me being honest. And I assume it's probably going to be the same for a lot of players where they just put off farming altogether. And in honesty, to be honest, it might even lead to a situation where obviously a lot of people do stop farming, therefore crops go up in price, and the same with fermentos and croppies and squash because less people are farming. So we also have that to think about too. One thing I will say is, like I said, they've dressed this up, and essentially it is just a glorified way to try to stop macroers, or to try to punish them for macroing, even though they could, you know, do something about it. But where's that foraging update? Does anyone know what that foraging update is? I'm looking for it, but I can't find it. The amount of updates this has had since the foraging has had an update is just insane. Yeah, okay, good. I know everyone's going to have a different outlook on this update. Some people are going to think it's good. Some people are going to think it's bad. Some people are not going to be affected because they don't farm. Personally, for me, it's not a bad idea, but I don't think it's going to achieve what they set out to. For me, it's going to mean that I'm not going to farm. I'm going to go into mining. I mean, this is personally, for me, probably the end of farming, because I don't want to have to deal with this situation where I have to either, there's a bit of a trade-off. You've got to decide whether you want slashed rates or whether you want to leave what you're actually doing in farming, to then have to exterminate a pest. Now you might think, oh well, some of these drops you get from the pest will be helpful. Well, that is true. Eventually you're going to get them. You're going to get them all. I mean, that's the bottom line. So there's no incentive for me to then go and get more pests, because realistically, the only time I'm ever going to farm is on Iron Man. And of course, you're going to be able to probably sell them for 1 coin to the NPC, like the reforged stones and things like that. So that's not ideal either. So for me, I'm not a fan. To be completely honest, I'm not a fan of the update. Like I said, I'm gonna be really reluctant to farm, and I'm gonna avoid it at all costs, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. Let me know what you think of this update in the comments. Anyway, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure you do leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.